The Galactic Council's chamber was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. Suspended in the void of neutral space, the vast room was an architectural marvel. Towering arches of shimmering metal and glowing panels stretched endlessly in every direction. Delegates from hundreds of species filled the seats arranged in a grand circle, their forms strange and varied, tentacles brushing shimmering robes, eyes glowing softly in dim light, bodies that seemed to ripple like liquid. Each species radiated its own quiet power, an unspoken reminder of how many different worlds had come together to form this fragile alliance. Humans had arrived late to the council, relatively young in galactic terms. Yet the air shifted when the Earth delegation stepped through the grand doors. Clad in sleek, simple uniforms that contrasted sharply with the elaborate garb of other delegates, the humans carried themselves with a calm confidence. Their leader, Ambassador Narration, was a woman in her early 40s, with sharp eyes and a voice that carried the steady assurance of someone who had faced countless challenges and refused to back down. Mara's gaze swept the chamber. The murmur of alien languages paused briefly, as if sensing something different. When she spoke, her voice was clear and measured. The galaxy faces a turning point. Decades of division and mistrust threaten the peace we all claim to seek. We propose a new way forward, one based on equality, transparency, and mutual respect. The council elders exchanged glances. Some smiled thinly, others shifted uncomfortably. The older species had ruled for centuries, their traditions woven into the very fabric of galactic politics. To hear a relatively young species demand change was unusual, bold even. Many dismissed it as idealism, naive hope that a young race could rewrite centuries of complex alliances and power struggles. Councillor Threx, a towering reptilian with scales that shimmered like molten metal, leaned forward. His voice rumbled, tinged with impatience. "And what makes you think humanity understands the delicate balance we maintain? You come with promises, but little experience." Mara did not flinch. "Experience is not measured in years alone, Counselor. It is measured in action and understanding. We have watched, learned, and prepared for this moment." A murmur spread through the chamber. Some delegates nodded subtly. Others remained stone-faced. The humans had arrived with proposals, radical reforms to council procedures, equitable sharing of resources, and open communication channels. These ideas challenged the old guard's comfortable control. As the debate unfolded, a growing tension filled the air. The humans spoke with unexpected clarity and insight, addressing long-standing issues others had avoided. But their words were met with resistance, skepticism, and sometimes outright hostility. Whispered conversations broke out behind closed doors. Some council members joked about humanity's reckless optimism and unwarranted confidence. Yet no one could deny that the humans had disrupted the status quo. Where others saw obstacles, Mara's team saw opportunities for cooperation. Where cynicism thrived, they offered hope. Outside the chamber, the humans prepared for what lay ahead. Their chief strategist, Commander Elias Rourke, reviewed data streams and intercepted messages. He knew the Council's disdain was not just about ideas. It was about power. Earth's presence threatened centuries-old hierarchies. "Patience," Mara told him. "We're not here to rush their acceptance. We're here to be heard." As the session drew to a close, the Council's atmosphere remained charged with unease. The humans had made their stand. But the real challenge was only beginning. They had walked into a den of tradition and pride. And the hunt to dismantle old prejudices quietly began. The Galactic Council, proud and ancient, had just met humanity. And no one yet realized how profoundly that encounter would reshape the stars. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council had emptied hours ago. But the true discussions were only just beginning, far from the public eye. Behind thick, reinforced doors in shadowed conference rooms, the alien delegates gathered in smaller groups, voices lowered to cautious whispers. The humans had spoken boldly in the council session. Their ideas for equality and reform stirred discomfort among the older empires, whose influence had gone largely unchallenged for centuries. In these private meetings, their disdain was far more candid. Councillor Vrex, a slender being with shimmering wings and eyes like molten silver, addressed a group of senior delegates. These humans, reckless, untested, and naive, they want to dismantle a system that has maintained peace for 1,000 years. Do we simply tolerate this youthful arrogance? A murmur of agreement echoed. Some delegates clenched fists or tapped fingers anxiously on polished surfaces. Many had long counted humans as a curiosity, little more than newcomers eager to prove themselves. They had underestimated Earth's resolve. But what no one realized was how deeply the humans had prepared. While the council debated and dismissed their proposals, the human delegation worked in parallel, quietly reaching out to worlds and civilizations often ignored by the council's formal politics. Fringe systems, outlying colonies, and independent species, all eager for new allies and respect. In a small, nondescript room not far from the council halls, Mara Chen met with a representative from the Arvani, a secretive species known for their exceptional stealth and intelligence gathering. The Arvani had been wary of larger coalitions, but Mara's openness and sincerity had earned their trust. "We must be careful," the Arvani delegate warned, voice barely a whisper. "The council watches closely. Any sign of rebellion, and they will move to crush dissent." "We are not here to rebel," Mara said firmly. "We are here to build a future where all voices matter, especially those the council has ignored." Meanwhile, on a nearby space station orbiting a desert planet, Commander Elias Work coordinated a network of human diplomats and operatives. They transmitted encrypted messages, forged new agreements, and shared technology with eager partners. Each small success was a step toward building something greater, an alliance based on mutual respect, not hierarchy. Back in the council's secret chambers, rumors swirled. Some speculated that the humans were attempting a coup of influence. Others feared a new coalition that might threaten the established order. Whispered warnings spread like wildfire. Humanity was no longer a mere curiosity. They were a rising power. Yet, the council's older members remained complacent in many ways, convinced that their experience and tradition would outlast any human challenge. They underestimated not just human ambition, but human patience. The humans did not rush their plans. They knew the power of timing. While the council wasted energy on insults and dismissals, Earth's representatives gathered allies in the shadows, learning from their partners, sharing resources, and planting seeds of cooperation. In one quiet moment, Mara confided in Elias, "They see our silence as weakness. We'll show them how wrong they are." Elias nodded, eyes sharp. "They think the future belongs to them. They forget. We built this future to last." The contrast between the council's public show and private paranoia grew wider each day. The humans were not just playing their part. They were rewriting the rules in silence, beyond the council's view. And as the galactic leaders whispered behind closed doors, the human network expanded quietly, steadily, and without fanfare. Their strategy was clear: wait for the right moment, then act decisively. No one in the council suspected how close that moment was. The final day of the peace talks arrived with a heavy atmosphere. Delegates gathered once more in the towering chamber of the Galactic Council, the tension between species palpable like static before a storm. Yet the humans remained composed, their faces calm as if they had already anticipated what was about to unfold. Ambassador Mara Chen stood before the assembly, her voice steady as she addressed the room. "We have listened, we have waited, and we have hoped for genuine progress. But too many voices here have chosen to ignore our calls for fairness and respect." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Therefore, humanity will withdraw from these peace talks. We will no longer participate in discussions that do not honor all parties equally." A stunned silence followed. The council chamber, usually alive with chatter and rebuttal, seemed to freeze. No protests rose, no pleas for reconsideration. The humans did not shout or storm out. They simply gathered their belongings with quiet dignity and walked away. Counselor Threx was the first to break the silence, his deep voice booming. This is an outrage. The humans abandoned diplomacy in the face of challenge. But Mara did not respond. Her delegation moved swiftly and efficiently, leaving the chamber as if they had fulfilled a necessary duty. Cameras and comms across the galaxy captured the scene. A delegation walking out, a statement of quiet but undeniable power. Outside the chamber, whispers exploded into confusion. The council leaders struggled to grasp the implications. Many assumed this was a tantrum, a fleeting protest born of frustration. They could not imagine the humans' withdrawal was a strategic maneuver. Within hours, the repercussions rippled through star systems. Earth's embassies began closing. Starports stopped processing human traffic. Supply lines that had depended on human-operated relays suddenly faltered. The sudden silence from Earth left many worlds scrambling to fill gaps in communication and logistics. On a distant trade hub, a bustling market fell eerily quiet as shipments from Earth ceased arriving. Merchants, once confident in the stability the humans provided, exchanged worried glances. Without Earth's support, how long before the whole network collapses? Whispered one trader. In a command center orbiting a core world, Counselor Vrex furrowed his brow, watching data streams flood in with alerts. This is no mere diplomatic stunt, he muttered. The humans have gone dark across the sector. We must understand their intent. But the human silence was deliberate. Far from scrambling, their leaders were coordinating behind secure channels, activating contingency plans crafted long before the council meetings began. Commander Elias Work monitored star charts, observing allies and partners move into position, ready to support Earth's decision. The council scrambled to respond, but they were blindsided by the efficiency and precision of humanity's move. Systems that had grown reliant on human technology and infrastructure felt exposed for the first time. Panic simmered beneath the surface as worlds realized how deeply intertwined their lives had become with Earth. Meanwhile, the humans watched and waited, confident in their choice. Mara met with her closest advisors in a secure chamber aboard their flagship. We knew this would unsettle them, she said quietly. They mistook our patience for weakness. Now they'll see the cost of ignoring us. Elias nodded. It's a calculated risk, but the alliances we've built outside the council will hold. The galaxy will feel our absence and reconsider their assumptions. Across the stars, news spread rapidly. Humanity had pulled out of the peace talks. Some dismissed it as a bluff. Others feared it as a prelude to something greater. But all agreed on one thing. Nothing in the galactic order would be the same again. The council, once confident in its control, was now forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. The humans were not naive idealists, nor were they simple newcomers. They were a force that had quietly grown, learned, and prepared. And their departure was just the beginning. The galaxy had barely absorbed the shock of humanity's sudden departure from the peace talks when the ripple effects began to spread like shockwaves through interconnected systems. Trade routes, once humming with activity, slowed to a crawl, then stuttered, and in some sectors, ground to a complete halt. The intricate web of communication and logistics that humanity had woven across the stars was deeper and more vital than most had realized. Earth's relay satellites, transport fleets, and security patrols had quietly become the backbone of countless colonies and trade hubs. Their absence left a void, one that sent shockwaves through the core worlds and frontier outposts alike. On the bustling orbital station of Varkan Prime, situated at a critical junction between major star lanes, merchants and diplomats gathered anxiously. The marketplace buzzed with whispers and worried speculation. Cargo ships from Earth, once arriving with clockwork precision, had ceased their schedules without warning. A young trader named Jex, whose family had run interstellar shipping for generations, watched the holo-display flicker with updates of delayed shipments. It's not just the loss of goods, he said grimly to a fellow merchant. It's the breakdown of trust. If the humans can disappear like this, what's to stop others from following? Across the sector, planetary governors convened emergency meetings. Star systems dependent on Earth's technology scrambled to compensate. Engineers and scientists worked round the clock to reroute communication grids and develop replacements for the missing infrastructure, but progress was slow and costly. Even the Galactic Council, still reeling from the walkout, was forced to acknowledge the growing crisis. Councillor Threx, addressing a special session, conceded, "It is clear Earth's influence extends far beyond our expectations. Their withdrawal impacts us all." Councillor Vrex, ever cautious, added, "We underestimated humanity's reach and integration. This is not merely a diplomatic gesture. It is a disruption of galactic stability." Meanwhile, far from the heart of the Council, human alliances quietly activated their support networks. The Arvani, once marginalized, began deploying scouts to secure trade routes and share intelligence with Earth's forces. The independent Zeri clans pledged protection over key border worlds, offering their fleets in exchange for shared technology. On a hidden moon base, Commander Elias Work coordinated with allied commanders, issuing orders with calm precision. "Maintain the perimeter and ensure supply lines remain open. We cannot afford chaos, only controlled change." Despite the growing tension, humans remained disciplined. They did not launch aggressive attacks or blockade star systems. Instead, their strategy was one of quiet strength, demonstrating how indispensable they had become through absence rather than force. On a distant colony world, a group of diplomats debated feverishly. "We need the humans back at the table," one argued. "Their technology, their networks, they're the glue holding so much together." "But if we beg them now," another countered, "we show weakness. We must find a way to negotiate from a position of strength." Back on Earth, Ambassador Mara Chen reflected on the unfolding events. "We predicted some disruption," she told Elias during a late-night briefing. "But the depth of dependency they have on us, it's a stark reminder of how intertwined we've become." Elias nodded. "It's a powerful leverage. They didn't see it coming because they assumed we were weak. They were wrong." As days turned to weeks, the galaxy grew restless. Systems without human support began to falter, supply shortages emerged, and old rivalries threatened to flare. The Council's reputation wavered as member worlds questioned its effectiveness. In quiet corners, Council leaders realized the growing danger of their complacency. The humans, once underestimated, had demonstrated that patience was not weakness. Their withdrawal was a calculated message. The old ways were no longer enough. And as the ripple effects spread, a new question emerged across the stars. How long before the Council acknowledged the error it had made in dismissing humanity? The galactic map was shifting, quietly but unmistakably. Where once the Galactic Council's influence had been absolute, borders blurred, and loyalties realigned. The revelation of humanity's secret alliances stunned many, especially those who had dismissed Earth as insignificant. For centuries, the Council's core species had looked down on fringe civilizations, isolated colonies, small independent worlds, and species excluded from the grand halls of power. Many of these societies lived in the shadows of the great empires, ignored or even oppressed. Yet it was with these very civilizations that humanity had quietly forged bonds, offering more than just aid. They offered respect, partnership, and shared vision. On the frontier world of Cernus, a lush jungle planet long neglected by the Council, a delegation awaited the arrival of a human envoy. The local leader, Chief Farron, paced anxiously. His people had suffered for generations under the neglect and exploitation of larger powers. The human promise of genuine cooperation had been a beacon of hope. When the envoy finally arrived, a young diplomat named Lena Cross, she came not with demands or ultimatums, but with gifts of technology, medical aid, and a clear message of equality. "We stand with you," she said simply, "not as rulers, but as partners." Word of similar partnerships spread fast. The nomadic Vicari clans, known for their fierce independence, pledged support for Earth's coalition. The reclusive Solithari, masters of cybernetics, and once overlooked due to their isolationist policies, offered intelligence sharing and technological upgrades. Even some council member worlds began to question their allegiance. On Corel Prime, a major industrial hub, influential senators debated the shifting tides. Senator Kira Voss argued passionately, "We cannot ignore that humanity's alliances represent the future. Our outdated hierarchies are crumbling." Opposing voices warned of rebellion and chaos, but the momentum was undeniable. Trade routes once tightly controlled by the council opened to new players. Supply chains grew more diverse and resilient. The council's grip loosened as more star systems chose to align with the human-led coalition. Back aboard the flagship Resolve, Ambassador Mara Chen reviewed reports from allied worlds. "They trust us because we offer something the council never did, genuine respect," she said to Commander Elias Work. "This is not just politics, it's a new way of being." Elias smiled grimly. "They didn't see it coming because they thought we were weak. But respect builds loyalty faster than fear ever could." The council's leadership scrambled to respond. Emergency sessions were called, but their efforts felt reactive and insufficient. Attempts to woo back the fringe systems failed against the tangible benefits of humanity's partnership. Councillor Threx voiced a rare moment of concession during a broadcasted debate. "The humans have proven adaptable and innovative. Their alliances grow stronger each day. We must reconsider our approach if we wish to maintain unity." However, pride and old rivalries remained deeply rooted. Some factions began covert operations to undermine human alliances, sowing distrust and sabotage. The galaxy teetered on the edge of new conflicts, not between open enemies, but between old power structures and a rising coalition. Despite the threats, the human coalition's foundation was strong. The alliances were based on shared values, mutual benefit, trust, and respect, not fear or domination. This new model attracted even more worlds disillusioned by the Council's arrogance. On a remote planet, a gathering of independent leaders marked a turning point. They formally recognized Earth's coalition as a legitimate force for peace and progress. A message was sent to the Council. The era of unilateral control was over. The Council, once confident in its supremacy, now faced the reality that its authority was being challenged not with weapons, but with unity. And as the stars quietly shifted their allegiance, humanity's quiet patience transformed into undeniable influence. The Galactic Council, once a symbol of unshakable unity, now showed cracks that could no longer be ignored. The centuries-old institution was fracturing from within, its core shaken by the steady rise of humanity's coalition and the growing unrest among member worlds. On Corel Prime, the industrial heart of the Council's power, Senator Kira Voss stood before a packed assembly, her voice ringing with urgency. "Our foundation is crumbling," she declared. "We face a new reality where the Council's authority is questioned not by rebels, but by former allies. The humans have revealed our weaknesses, our arrogance, our failure to listen." Opposing voices jeered, refusing to accept what many quietly feared. "We are the guardians of peace." Councillor Threx bellowed during the heated debate. "These fractures are temporary, mere ripples. The Council will endure." But ripples had turned into chasms. Outer colonies, long treated as second-class citizens, grew bolder. They demanded more autonomy, representation, and respect. Some threatened outright secession, citing the Council's neglect and the growing appeal of humanity's new vision. In the Outer Rim, Governor Lena Torin of the Helios system prepared to announce her system's withdrawal from Council governance. "We have waited too long," she said in a public broadcast. "The Council ignores our voices. We seek a new path, one of cooperation, equality, and respect. We join the coalition led by Earth." The announcement sent shockwaves through the Council halls. Panic spread as other systems signaled their intent to follow. The image of the Council as the unchallenged authority shattered overnight. Amidst the turmoil, the Council's inner factions grew restless. Some sought reform, recognizing that survival meant adapting to this new era. Others clung stubbornly to tradition, refusing to yield power. In private meetings, the council's elder members debated fiercely. "We must show strength," one insisted. "Crack down on dissent before it spreads." "But repression will only deepen divisions," another warned. "We need to embrace change or face collapse." Meanwhile, humanity watched with steady resolve. Ambassador Narration and Commander Elias Work convened on the flagship Resolve, reviewing the unfolding crisis. "This is the moment we anticipated," Mara said quietly. "The Council's pride blinds them, but the fractures are real. Our coalition offers hope and a new future." Elias nodded. "They fear losing control, but they underestimate how much the galaxy wants change. We can't force it, but we can lead by example." Across the stars, the coalition grew stronger. New members joined, inspired by the promise of a fairer, more cooperative galaxy. Shared resources, technology, and knowledge flowed freely. The coalition's success contrasted sharply with the Council's faltering grip. Even some Council veterans began to reconsider. Senator Voss worked tirelessly to bridge gaps, advocating reforms inspired by human ideals: transparency, shared leadership, and inclusion. The Council's crisis reached a critical point when a faction of hardliners attempted a covert operation to sabotage a coalition supply convoy. The plan was exposed, fueling outrage and further eroding trust. Galactic media outlets broadcast the scandal widely, framing it as evidence of the Council's desperation and decline. Public opinion swung decisively in favor of humanity's coalition. Yet, despite the chaos, the Council was not defeated, only transformed. The fractures revealed deep flaws but also opened opportunities for renewal. In quiet corridors, whispers spoke of a council reborn through humility and cooperation. The galaxy awaited a new balance of power, one shaped not by domination, but by partnership. As the stars watched, humanity's patient rise had reached a tipping point. The old order faltered, making way for a future written together. Tensions between the Galactic Council and humanity's coalition had been simmering for months. The fractures within the Council had deepened into open defiance by some members, and the galaxy's balance of power was teetering on the edge of collapse. In the Council's Grand Chamber, an emergency summit was called. Delegates from all corners of the galaxy assembled under a heavy silence. Ambassador Narration arrived, not as a supplicant, but as a representative of a formidable new order. The air was thick with expectation, fear, and the weight of change. Councillor Threx's voice cut through the stillness. "Humanity, you have shaken our foundation and challenged centuries of tradition. But the Council is not weak. We demand you reconsider your position. The unity of the galaxy depends on it." Mara met his gaze steadily. "The unity you speak of is built on exclusion and silence. We withdrew because you refused to listen, refused to change. We are not here to restore an old order. We are here to build a new one." The debate that followed was fierce. Old alliances clashed with new coalitions. Accusations flew, and accusations were met with facts and demonstrations of cooperation from humanity's partners. Each side fought not with weapons but with words, strategy, and resolve. Yet beneath the surface, darker forces stirred. A radical faction within the Council, fearing loss of power, began secret preparations for military intervention. They believed only force could restore order. When news of this reached the coalition, Mara and Elias knew the fragile peace was about to break. "Diplomacy is no longer enough," Elias said grimly. "If they strike, we must be ready." Mara nodded. "We've built more than allies. We have trust and shared purpose. That will be our strength." The final confrontation began not with a grand battle, but a series of coordinated strikes against military outposts loyal to the hardliners. Human and allied fleets moved with precision, disabling weapon systems and communications without unnecessary destruction. The galaxy held its breath as the conflict unfolded, a war fought with calculated restraint, intelligence, and determination. The coalition's goal was not to conquer but to dismantle the forces of division and fear. In the midst of the conflict, a broadcast went out across all frequencies. Mara's voice echoed with calm authority. The era of exclusion is over. We seek peace, not domination. Let this be the last conflict born of fear and pride. Join us in building a future where all species stand as equals. Her words resonated deeply, swaying many undecided systems to her side. The hardliners found their support eroding as hope for a new galaxy grew stronger. As the final strongholds fell and the hardliners surrendered, the Galactic Council faced a choice. Resist change to the bitter end or embrace the future humanity had long envisioned. The decision came swiftly. A new council was formed, one inclusive and representative of all species. Old titles and privileges were set aside for shared leadership and responsibility. Ambassador Mara Chen was appointed as a key figure in this new council, not as a conqueror, but as a unifier. The coalition had not only survived, but had reshaped the galaxy's destiny. The final confrontation was not just a battle of fleets or weapons. It was a clash of ideals, a turning point that marked the end of an era and the birth of a new galactic age. The aftermath of the final confrontation left the galaxy changed forever. The old Galactic Council, once a towering symbol of power and tradition, was no more. In its place stood a new assembly, diverse, inclusive, and committed to a vision of equality and cooperation. Ambassador Mara Chen stood on the balcony of the newly established Galactic Forum, overlooking a vista of stars and bustling starports. The weight of responsibility rested heavily on her shoulders, but her heart swelled with hope. Around her, representatives from hundreds of species gathered, their faces reflecting a mixture of cautious optimism and excitement. For the first time, every voice mattered. Decisions would no longer be dictated by a select few, but shaped by the collective wisdom of the galaxy's many peoples. Mara addressed the assembly. We have endured hardship and conflict, but those trials have forged something stronger than any one species: unity through respect and shared purpose. Commander Elias Work, standing nearby, nodded quietly. This is what we fought for. The chance to build a future where fear and exclusion are replaced by trust and cooperation. Rebuilding would not be easy. Systems still bore scars from the conflict, and decades of inequality could not be undone overnight. But the coalition's foundation was solid: mutual respect, open communication, and shared goals. Across the galaxy, worlds began to reconnect in new ways. Trade routes reopened, not just for commerce, but for cultural exchange. Scientific collaborations flourished, blending technologies and knowledge. Education and healthcare programs spread to previously neglected colonies, lifting millions out of hardship. On Earth, celebrations marked the new era. Citizens watched broadcasts of the Galactic Forum's first sessions, proud that their planet had sparked such profound change. Yet, they remained humble, knowing the work ahead was as important as the victories behind. Mara received messages from leaders old and new, some offering congratulations, others extending invitations for collaboration. The once distant and divided galaxy was growing closer, united by a vision few had dared to imagine. Even those who had opposed humanity's rise began to see the benefits. Councillor Vrex, now serving in the new assembly, admitted in a candid interview, "We underestimated humanity's strength, not in battle, but in their ability to inspire change." The new council established guiding principles: transparency, fairness, and the protection of all species' rights. Conflicts would be resolved through dialogue, with an emphasis on understanding and compromise. One of the first initiatives was the creation of the Galactic Unity Corps, a joint peacekeeping force staffed by volunteers from every member world. Their mission: to prevent the kind of fractures that had once threatened the galaxy's stability. As the stars twinkled overhead, Mara reflected on the journey, from the initial peace talks, through the walkout, the quiet alliances, the upheaval, and now this new beginning. She understood that humanity's true strength had never been in conquest or domination, but in patience, resilience, and the unwavering belief that a better future was possible. A child's laughter echoed nearby. A young human child playing alongside alien friends from different worlds. It was a simple, beautiful symbol of the galaxy's new dawn. The road ahead would have challenges, but for the first time in countless years, hope was no longer a fragile dream. It was a shared reality. And under the endless stars, a united galaxy looked forward, to peace, to progress, and to the limitless possibilities of a future built together.